If you watch a lot of YouTube, you have been asked to subscribe in probably quite a number of ways. The most recent trend seems to be something like saying like, yo, what's up gamers, check it out. If you see only 15% of you are subscribed, please go subscribe and let's change that percentage. Here's the button, also press the notification bell. It can be a lot, and it can also be a little bit annoying, especially if you watch like a lot of videos. And I do in fact get asked if pestering people like that works, and is it worthwhile? And if it does work, does it matter? How much should I be caring about subscribers? Are they really important to my success on the platform? And like most things, the answer is a little bit yes and a little bit no, so let's get into it. First things first, let's get the big question out of the way. Do you need subscribers? Do you need to be worried about your subscriber count? The answer is sort of. Subscribers do matter, but typically they only matter for very specific purposes or at very specific thresholds. Probably currently the most important threshold is 1,000 subscribers, which is what you need to be part of the partner program alongside the 4,000 hours of watch time. So if you don't have 1,000 subscribers, you can't be part of the partner program and you can't enjoy monetization benefits. Beyond that, there are milestones at 100,000 and 1 million for the silver and gold YouTube play buttons. And then beyond that, there are some other further away milestones that are not something that you probably have to worry about unless you are very, very big and very iconic on the platform already. As far as what those buttons do, makes you feel good about what you've accomplished, but they don't actually confer any benefit or privilege. In terms of do subscribers actively benefit your channel, there are a couple of reasons that they might. First, subscribers can make your channel feel more established and alive. So if I have the same video and it's really, really good, and I put it on a channel with 80 subscribers and one with 100,000 subscribers, and it does well in both of them, people are gonna look at the one with 80 subscribers and be like, oh, this must be a new thing or a one-off. I'm not really sure if it's going to continue or if they do stuff like this a lot. It gives the sense that this is kind of almost a fluke, not exactly, but like it has a little bit of that feeling, whereas something with like 100,000 subscribers, you're much more likely to be like, oh, well, this is clearly an established thing and they must do things like this pretty commonly. It's not a fair distinction, but it is one that we kind of subconsciously make. The other thing that subscribers can be really good for is brand deals. If you have a bunch of subscribers, that's a really easy metric to show somebody when you're setting up a brand deal. It's not necessarily actually the thing that would benefit a brand deal the most, but it's one of the easiest to communicate. Like if I'm talking to a marketing person and I can say like, oh, well, the average view percentage is this, which means people watch this much of my videos and the audience is really dedicated and interested. Like that's all things that are well and good, but it's much easier to be like, look, I have 500,000 subscribers and that's a big number. And that's not to take like a dig at like marketing professionals. That's just a case of like, if you have to process information quickly about whether or not this channel is worth your time, you probably care about monthly views and subscribers as a predictor of how many people are going to see the ad that you're paying for. And things that marketing professionals would care about if they could are a little bit harder to like think about in a concrete sense. Like when you start talking about like attention and loyalty, like those are great things. And even if we can quantify them sort of, it gets really hard and nuanced and there's all sorts of complicated issues with that. So from that perspective, having a high subscribership can really help. And beyond that, subscribers are almost entirely a vanity metric. Like it feels good to watch it go up, but it doesn't tell you a whole lot about how you're doing performance-wise. And a lot of people watch a lot of content that they're not subscribed to, and the subscribe tab doesn't count for a lot, and you will get plenty of videos in your home page that have nothing to do with who you subscribe to. So here's just some scrolling through of my home page on my work laptop, which as you can see is a touch eclectic. There's a lot going on here. So if we go over here to my subscription page, you'll see it's a lot of stuff that wasn't on the homepage because I don't really subscribe to things on my work laptop unless it's by accident, mostly. So here we are. And because they're things that I subscribe to but don't really have plans ever to actively watch, it doesn't really change what shows up on my homepage, which is much, much more dependent on what my watch history is, which is a lot of things because it's everything from like background noise while I'm doing a report to things that I'm actively researching to work and home are somewhat blurry in the COVID times, and sometimes I forget which laptop I'm on. So sometimes you watch a video that relives the bodybuilding forum thing where somebody didn't know how many days in a week there were. Sue me. So for most people, in most circumstances, I don't usually recommend focusing on subscribers too much because it doesn't really tell you a lot. It's not really that useful of a metric. It just doesn't do a lot unless you're worried about one of those very specific set of circumstances. A lot of people seem to think that subscribers indicate that they will have higher viewership in the future, which just generally isn't true. It has very little impact on who gets served what, which means it has not that great of an impact on how many views you get. In fact, it's usually the other way around. The more views you get, the more likely you are to get more subscribers. So if you want subscribers, one of the first things that you want to do is focus on views. From an analytics perspective, I don't look at subscribers all that often unless like it's a client KPI and they're using it for something like brand deals. Or very, very occasionally, it can serve as a sort of stand-in metric for a couple ideas about organic response that get really nitty-gritty and kind of aren't within the purview of this video. But suffice it to say that unless a very specific set of things have gone wrong, I don't really think about subscribers all that much because it doesn't impact our viewership. It won't impact your bottom line if you're talking about ad revenue. It's not really a thing that determines the size of your audience, which is weird because it's sort of billed as the size of your audience. It's not though. But let's say that you care about subscribers for one of those specific reasons. You want to get to the monetization level. You want to get one of those buttons just to say that you did. Or you are trying to pursue brand deals and it's very helpful to you to have a high subscribership base. What can you do to attract subscribers? First and foremost, you can ask. We typically call this a call to action. This is what we talked about at the beginning when people talk about like, hey, only this many % of people subscribe. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. That's totally a valid thing. And if you are seeking subscribers, this is something we recommend that you do at some level. And the reason for this is because the audience experience typically is you watch a video, you get to the end of the video, and you're like, that was a fun video. Time to watch the next video. That's kind of what you're doing. Once the video's ending, you're queuing up the next thing. If you as a creator take a moment to say like, hey, before you go, could you subscribe? It would help me out. That just brings it into people's mind that like, oh yeah, that's a thing that I can do. I should probably subscribe. Some people ask if this can be annoying or interrupting or interfering. The short answer is yes, it can be annoying, and you should probably try and limit it to something like 10 seconds or less just to make sure that you're not taking away from the video too much, because if you have somebody who's subscribed and they're a regular and you're spending 30 seconds talking about how people need to subscribe, it's really, really annoying to have done that and then feel like you're being badgered about it. At the same time, people understand that broadly speaking, this is free entertainment and they are willing to put up with some of that for the purposes of getting that entertainment for free. In the same way that if you talk about a brand deal, people don't typically resent that, or if you run ads at the beginning of your video, people don't typically get upset about that. They understand that that kind of comes with the territory. Is it necessary to talk about the percentage of subscribers and sort of like do that weird guilt thing? No, I don't know how I feel about that one. I don't have a lot of hard data on people who've done it and how that conversion works versus people that don't. Typically for me, it makes those plugs a little bit long. So I personally wouldn't do it unless I were to come across some data that says it actually works, which I haven't seen either way. Also, when you ask, it probably shouldn't come at the beginning of the video. You should have some content up front and you should show that you are worth the subscription before you ask for the subscription. So definitely not right at the beginning of the video. If you want to put it midway through or at the end, that's totally valid. You can also do both, that's totally fine. But if you're going to spend 15 seconds right at the front of your video going, hey, before I show you anything that's interesting, please subscribe, that can feel a little bit weird. So keep it short, keep it sweet, and give your audience something of value before you ask something from them. The next thing that you can do is have good end screens. This sort of ties into the fact that you can ask your audience, and the end screen is a really good place to do that because you can put a button that they can click to subscribe that's right on the video. For your purposes, things that are going to make an end screen good are, one, having a specific verbal call to action. Using your voice is much more powerful than just using text. And as well, you want to make sure that you didn't end the video before you get to the end screen. This is something that you'll do where people will like 40 or 50 seconds before the video goes over, they'll be like, so that's it, thank you so much for watching. And like, people are already gone by that point. If you want people to subscribe at the end screen, you need to be putting up clickable elements like as you're saying thank you for watching, and the call to action needs to be like the next thing right after that. So at the end of this video, you're going to hear me express my appreciation for watching. Here's some other videos you can watch, and then like and subscribe are gonna come immediately after that. Once you get to the end screen, you want those elements to be obvious and clickable and said clearly, and you don't want to spend a lot of time getting into them because people will already be gone. A third thing that you can do, and that you've probably seen people do, is you can celebrate subscriber milestones, because obviously they're fun for you, but it's also fun for your community to be like a part of that thing. So if you do like, oh, I got to this many subscribers, so I'm gonna do like a Q&A, or here's my thank you video. That's usually a nice way of like expressing that appreciation. And it makes it fun for people that like care about your channel, like, oh man, we're so close, I should tell my friends about this or something, or get the word out in some way or another. If you want, in your calls to action, you can sort of tease these. You can say like, hey, be sure to subscribe. When we get to X number, we're going to do this. We're gonna have a Q&A. I'm gonna do this live stream, something like that, that just like tells people like, hey, there's a cool reason for you to subscribe. Which again, sort of gets into the idea of like, there's value to you subscribing, not just value to me. Right? It's the same reason that we don't do it at the beginning. You want to prove that you're giving some value in return for getting some value. So those are kind of the best practices for like specifically boosting subscriber numbers, right? You ask people, you have a good end screen with verbal calls to action, and you can do subscriber milestones. Those are like things centered around subscribers, but there are other things that you can do that also naturally help subscriptions. The first of those is to upload regularly. I don't know how everyone watches YouTube, but I've noticed in myself that when I watch a YouTube video, I watch and I go, oh, that's kind of fun. And I might watch one or two more from the creator, but usually I don't subscribe myself unless it's been a couple of times on a couple of different sessions that I've really come back to this creator and enjoyed them, because I do, when I'm not on my work laptop, try and curate my feed very, very carefully. So having someone who uploads regularly and shows that they're active is way advantaged. I imagine not everyone watches YouTube like I do, but it's really helpful if you can show that like, hey, this wasn't just a one-off. Like, I'm a creator who comes back and I care about this, and this is like a thing that I do with regularity. Is a lot better than like, yo, subscribe, I made this one-off. See you in a year. If you really want to grow subscribers, I would try and have at least one upload per week, which is generally good advice for a YouTube channel in general that wants to grow. Secondly, have a good channel page. So when somebody comes to your channel page, you want it to say that like, yes, this is something that I regularly do, and this is what it is, so that if they like that thing, they'll think to subscribe to it. If somebody goes to your channel page and they can't figure out what it is that you're about, or if you're even still alive and doing this, they're probably not gonna subscribe. So you wanna have a lead-in channel trailer video that might not be a trailer, but should at least kind of explain what it is that you do here. You should have some horizontal playlists that are being actively updated that give a good sense of like your content in general. And ideally you should have a banner, one that maybe even communicates your schedule, and an icon that just say like, yeah, this is an established thing. This isn't just kind of a one-off fluke. Third, I would recommend that everyone focus on viewership and not focus on subscribers. A lot of people have the sense that subscribership correlates to views, and that, oh, if I have more subscribers, that means I will get more views. And it's actually usually more the opposite, where more views means a wider audience, and some percentage of that audience will become subscribers. So really you want to focus on increasing that audience, and then some percentage of that will subscribe. If you focus on viewership growth, the subscriber growth will happen naturally, and personally I find it's much easier to understand how viewership grows and much easier to track. So start there, start focusing on viewership, let subscribers happen over time. Because like the only time that those things wouldn't correlate is if like you fragmented your audience really badly, and that's way outside the purview of this video, and it would be like 3 hours if we got into that. It wouldn't be 3 hours, but it would be way too long for a video. Lastly, and this is kind of more of a philosophical thing, is to focus on growth over time as opposed to absolute numbers. Because we kind of talked about this where, you know, more subscribers adds kind of an air of legitimacy, which means that there's a certain momentum to them, where your first 1,000 subscribers will be the most difficult subscribers you'll ever attain, because it will just be really hard to establish that legitimacy. Once you have that, then people say, oh, well, this person has 1,000 subscribers, so the next 1,000 will come a little bit easier because you'll be a little more established, and then so on and so on. So your first 100,000 will be the hardest 100,000 to get, with 200,000 and so on and so forth, mattering less and less. So especially when you're just starting out, and the numbers can be really, really wild here, but I would focus much more on, I grew by 10%, I grew by 15%, I grew by 20%, and seeing how that changes over time, because that will get you a much better sense of like, huh, it took me this long to get 20 subscribers here, and it took me this long to get 20 subscribers here. I know that can be hard because there's specific milestones that you might want to be hitting, like, and if you're trying to hit that 1,000, you really care about that number, but it's much more important to see how you're growing over time, and that's on like a pretty long scale. Like, you don't want to think about it like, today I got 3 subscribers, and then tomorrow I get only 2 subscribers. Like, you don't want to think in small terms like that. You want to be looking at like this month versus this month was this percentage growth, or even this 90 days versus this 90 days. And again, that's talking more about viewership growth at this point, because viewership growth is going to matter more to your audience than subscriber growth, but they're both kind of going to go hand in hand. And that should give you a pretty good rundown of how to attract subscribers and whether or not you actually need to be concerned with them. They can be useful in a narrow set of circumstances, if you're just starting out and you want to get monetized, or if you're trying to attract brand deals. But for most people in most circumstances, you probably shouldn't sweat it. Focus on creating content that people come back for, and focus on seeing how your viewership grows over time, and your subscriber growth will follow that pretty naturally. And with that, thank you so much for watching. Be sure to check out our other videos on audience development. If you liked this video, be sure to let us know that you liked it by leaving a like and letting us know that you want to see more videos like this. And if you haven't already, subscribe to Little Monster for more videos on audience development every single week. See you next time.